Hello friends, I'm Kayla and I like reading other people's favorite books to check if our reading taste aligns, and today is BooksTok's time to shine. Now, if you're just joining us, we are midway through a series where I'm pitting social media against each other. This isn't about reading BooksTok's favorite books. That would be an entirely different selection. This is about finding BooksTokers who have similar taste to me, who have mentioned things in their 2023 favorites videos that I also gave 4 or 5 stars, and then picking another book from them, taste testing, and here's where the leaderboard currently sits. Now, finding 5 books from BooksTokers has proven to be the most challenging. I'm not finding the TikTok search function to really be helping me. My For You page is not helping me. I'm not being served the content I want, but I have been spending a lot of time on TikTok the last week to try to get it to show me what I'm looking for, because the people that I also follow on BookTok and engage with regularly, they don't necessarily have the same taste as me anyway. I know the people are out there, I'm just having a hard time finding them, but I'm working with what I got. And one thing that I know is going to work for me is starting with Jamila. So Jamila could have been featured in any of these videos because she's on all of the platforms. I decided to slot her into the BookTok video because I felt like I was struggling to find people. I haven't watched any of these yet. She did a 4-part series. I did scrub through her YouTube video though, so I know we have, I want to say 8 in common, which is going to be the highest of this entire video, I think. First up, we have literary fiction.
First, I want to talk about Exit West by Mohsin Hamid.
I do have Exit West on my TBR.
Next is Butter, Honey, Pig Bread.
We're really aligning with YA, with Pet, with The Fire on High, Felix Ever After, and We Deserve Monuments. For romance, I want to pick something from here because we both really enjoyed Honey and Spice. And I could choose The Neighbor Favor or Sweet Vengeance. In speculative fiction, both enjoyed The Deep. I kind of want to pick Parable of the Sower, but I'm saving it for next month for a different video. Oh, and then also Chain Gang All-Stars. And then she mentioned her favorite rereads, and the 5th season showed up, so I'm counting that as 8. Now, in her official top 6 favorites, I feel like I should choose from that. We have She Who Became the Sun, which I vaguely know about, Against the Loveless World, which I don't know anything about, To Shape a Dragon's Breath, I don't know anything about, and Minor Detail, I was gonna read for another video in this series. If I'm thinking about what is most likely to get a 5-star, it is a serious general fiction over a romance or a sci-fi, which, you know, I have mixed feelings about all the time. Now, the next person just appeared today because she tagged me in a comment just answering somebody's question about a book club, if she was in any book clubs, and she said, oh yeah, BooksandLala's book club. And then I go to click on the video, and her video is her top favorites of the year, and they are like all of my favorite books. So this is M. Jean Reads, and she starts out with Monstrilio, It by Stephen King, My Heart is a Chainsaw, Project Hail Mary, Babel, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I guess we can count Catching Fire, though I haven't read it in so long. I gave it a high rating. So with 6 in common, I wish she had other thrillers or horror for me to choose from on her list. But what I have to choose from is either
Trevor Noah, Born a Crime,
which I haven't read, or
A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini,
which I also haven't read. These are both hugely popular books that have been directly recommended to me before, so I think either one is a good choice. Moving on to somebody I found, Kel at Sapphic Reads. This is just a video flashing through all of their favorites, and I saw so many that we had in common. So I'm going to count them first, and then we'll go back through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I also saw Minor Detail in there, so that could count for 2 creators. I just saw a lot of hockey romance, so I also kind of want to pick that. Like Yellowface is obviously a popular one, Dial A for Aunties, but then they also like The Seep, and she liked Queen of the Tiles. What? Hold on. I just realized this cover is a book that I have. It's just a different cover. I didn't recognize it the first time I went through it. I specifically didn't buy this book in the country I live because I don't like the cover. But Her Majesty's Royal Coven is a little intimidatingly long for this video, but I do feel like it's the right decision. It's right here. Another person I found looking through all of these videos and trying to find things in common was Haley at What Hale's Reading, and I counted 6 in common.
This is my favorite time of year. I'm so excited. I've put together a little PowerPoint.
And she did hers in a 2023 wrapped video. So the favorites we have in common include In the Dream House, The House in the Cerulean Sea, Station 11, The Only One Left, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and Big Swiss. Now, she put her favorites in different tiers. So I could choose The Biography of X, which I do own. I could choose Open Water, Mother Thing, The Heart's Invisible Furies, The Rachel Incident. Oh, and then her two favorites of the year are A Little Life, which I know many of you would want me to pick, I'm not going to, and Lullabies for Little Criminals, which seems familiar to me, the cover, but I have no idea what it is. And then earlier in her honorable mentions, there was also The Rabbit Hutch, which people have recommended to me. So there are very many options, an overwhelming amount of options. So I think I might reserve some from the library, read the first chapter of some things, and not make the decision right now. Now, lastly, we're talking quality over quantity, because I follow Aubrey, who only shared her top 5, but they include 3 of my favorites. And the other 2 she mentioned are not like top of mind for me of things that I want to read right now, but she does monthly wrap-ups. So I think what we can do is go through all of those and consider her favorites from every month honorable mentions, because I really need to find a horror for this video. And clearly our horror tastes are aligning.
I don't think there was a single story I disliked.
There's another one in common.
To all of the My Heart is a Chainsaw haters who said the pacing was too slow, I promise you will not be saying that.
Another one in common. Another one we both enjoyed. Another one. Okay, I've proven we align. Now I'm looking for something to read.
Just finished one of the weirdest books I've ever read in my entire life, and I gave it 5 stars. Candelaria is a story about a family of women. Grief Keeper is a book that I think is so underrated. I've barely heard anybody talk about it, and it was so good. Eyes Are the Best Part doesn't come out until June of 2024, but you need to pre-order this because I think this is going to be the like hot girl thriller of 2024. I just finished it, but I know this is one that I am never going to be able to get out of my head. I already am thinking about it all of the time. Feminist, psychological thriller horror about a young Korean American girl. Her parents separate and her mom starts dating this gross white guy.
Okay, I do have some options, but if I can get my hands on an arc of The Eyes Are the Best Part, then I'm definitely gonna read that. Okay, I have an idea of what I'm gonna pick for this video, but I will chat with you once I make some decisions or I'm trying to figure some other stuff out.
This Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. That book is so unique and so weird, and it's a little bit dystopian, a little bit about abusive relationships. It just pressed a weird button in my brain.
So I did pick up a couple of the options for this creator. Well, this one was already on my TBR, but I grabbed The Rabbit Hutch. I put a couple other things on hold, but then I filmed my winter TBR, which involves pulling a book a month out of my members TBR drive, channel membership. Part of what we do is there is a place for people to leave their suggestions. It's not even recommendations like things that people think I will love, just things that people want to see me read. And out of the 3 that I pulled, one of them just so happened to be one of the ones mentioned in this video. So The Biography of X, this just made the decision for me. So maybe I'll get to some of the other options another day. But in this moment, I'm going with this, my absolutely beat up copy. I read one book from her before, Pew, which is weird, and I gave it a 4. So I just feel like this is the right decision. It's long. I feel like this is going to be my weird, but I feel like there's a weird book in each video and this is going to be the one for that. There seems to be pictures and such. It is a biography. So there's this woman who married this other woman named X, or she goes by X, and somebody else wrote a biography about her. And then her wife is like, no, let me actually piece together her life and tell you everything about her. But I don't even know everything about her. So I have to go on this long journey, meeting all these different people, talking to individuals that she might have known to get an idea of her true real life. The opening like kind of feels like Stargirl for adults. This woman who's constantly changing her name, going by different names, is just a little bit elusive. And then we're following a character who's trying to find out about her. I'm sure it's nothing like that, but Stargirl is like one of my favorite books of all time. So I'm excited to really dig into this, and I'll let you know how it's going in a little bit. Hello. This book is exhausting. It reads like a biography. So it's full of a lot of just facts and figures about the person, but also like the world. So it's an alternate reality. And there's just all of this information we're being given about the world at this time and the separation of the country that it's set, and like how there's north and south and how the political climate is or was when this woman was growing up, and we're learning about how she interacted with it, and she was like rebelling against her family. So CM is just interviewing a lot of people. The photos are making it interesting. Portions of it read like an interview. Why can't I find a single example? Okay, here we go. Like a back and forth interview style. And I don't know. Like I don't know. Do I really care enough about this woman that I want to read this for 300 more pages? There hasn't been anything intriguing me that much about her life. So then I'm waiting for it to like get action based or like have a plot, which I know it's not going to, or is it going to get weird beyond what it's doing already? I don't know. What I do know is I just got a package from Hachette, so I thought I would open it with you and let's see if it's something good. Oh my God, it's an Education in Malice. I don't think I requested this. This is beautiful. Oh my God. Interesting. The blurb on the front is from Sydney Shields, author of The Honey Witch, which is like one of my most anticipated cozy kind of fantasy books of the year, but I don't think she's written anything else. So for an established author, even like a companion novel, to have a blurb by a debut means that they probably really have high expectations of this book being like the book of the year. This is connected to A Dowry of Blood, which I really liked. I thought this package was something else, but looky here, we got a little book haul in the middle of the video. Actually, at the start of the video. This is the first book. Same bat time, same bat place. This book is sucking the life out of me. I'm going into day 3 now reading it. X does have a certain amount of fame attached to her. Yes, the synopsis talked about how she's an artist, a writer, a polarizing shapeshifter, but I didn't get the feeling that she was like famous, but she is. And I don't love reading about famous people. I don't love reading about the rise of fame. I don't think it's the most interesting hearing about all of the famous people like in real life that like we actively know about. Interviewing her, doing collaboration work. I just don't think it's an interesting thing to learn about. I would most recommend this for fans of maybe The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I didn't like. And by didn't like, I mean I gave it a 3, and I'm pretty confident this is also going to be a 3, which is fine. It's very slow. And if I look at Haley's list of things, I go back and I consider them, there is a lot of slow building literary stuff here, and obviously some that I like. Even like the thriller in here is a slow building plot. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Station 11, like they're very intricately built stories. Another one that I think definitely checks out here is Big Swiss. I gave that a 4. I would recommend this for fans of that, but I want it to be weirder. Like I need it to be weirder, and it's not going to be. And when I read Pew, it wasn't a weird plot either, but the writing was weird. It made you feel unsettled, and I'm just not getting that from this. But at least I am more invested at this point. Like learning all the things about her has gotten more interesting, coming to understand that she didn't know her wife as well as she thinks, because her whole point at the beginning is that nobody knows her as well as she does. The person who wrote the biography got it wrong, and she wants to clarify things. She wants to set the record straight, but she's clearly living in this reality that isn't totally reality, where she is misinterpreting or mistelling aspects of their relationship, and it just wasn't as perfect as she wanted it to be. Somebody suggested, and I might take this forward for next year if I do something similar, that I should dock somebody in common points if they have things on their favorites that I didn't like, because then the results would be a little bit different. If somebody had 10 things on their list, 5 I loved and 5 I didn't, then they kind of like neutral out. And I don't think that came up for like any other person in this entire series, but in this case, I should have recognized that there were a couple things that we didn't align with, and this should have made me more wary than I was. But I had to read this anyway because I pulled it out of the jar and it was on my TBR shelf, like my TBR shelf. I picked this. I bought this. I think I'm just feeling sad because the first book of both of the other videos were successes, and I'm not kicking off this one the same way, and I'm feeling sad about it. Oh my gosh, look how tiny my braids look. Oh my God, I feel like I have no hair left. So I finished the biography of X, and I'm giving it 3 stars, which is what I think I would probably give most actual like nonfiction biographies. I'm not the most interested in reading someone's story from someone else's point of view. So all of the insertions of documentation, like I wanted to be interested in it, but I wasn't the most. But objectively, this is really well written. I think her language is beautiful. I would read more from this author for sure. Every video in this series, there has been a book about art and talks about ownership of art and brings in conversations about like manipulating people and how art controls people, and it's always really interesting. So it had that going for it. I think the conversations around bias involved in writing someone's story when you're too close to the subject, how you can't really tell a story properly when you are like a character in it. I feel like I would easily recommend this to people. I just don't know who those people are. Like it feels like a book I know people would enjoy. It's not one of the ones that I would put on my weird book list that I thought it was going to be that I'd recommend to that crowd. So I'm on to my next book.
Minor Detail by Adania Shibli is probably one of the most well-crafted and haunting books that I've ever read. I'm honestly still wrapping my head around this book, and I've ordered a physical copy and I really want to reread it and like take my time with it again.
Yesterday Liam had a hockey game and I was reading a little bit while we were in between periods. Liam got one of his first penalties of the season for this. A 4-minute penalty, in fact. So there's that. I have started Minor Detail, which I think when I did my original graphics, I put this in the wrong category because I obviously like the footage. I have so much more footage than what you've seen. And this was actually an option in almost every single different video for the series. I could have slotted it into any of them. So I didn't know for sure which one it was going to be in, but I knew I wanted to read it. And it's on a lot of people's favorites list, obviously, because it's a Palestinian author and everybody wants to be reading from authors in Palestine and hearing from the voices of people directly affected by the atrocities happening. And this originally came out in, I want to say 2017, and then republished in 2020. It's obviously important for us all to be aware of what's happening in Gaza. I can't like fathom how infuriating and devastating it would feel to be from somewhere experiencing such atrocities and violence and starvation and genocide of my people, and feeling like the entire world is just ignoring it for decades and decades, and people writing books and wanting to do what they can to spread awareness and just being ignored until, you know, the absolute worst of it happens. And it's obviously not enough to be reading a fiction book or even a nonfiction book and gaining, you know, education, promoting, supporting art. Witnessing it in any form is important, and calling for a ceasefire in whatever way you can is number one. I also have, like I said, there's more footage than there were more books to choose from, and I very intentionally have left out books by known anti-Palestine authors who have certain rhetoric in their books, because that's actively not what I want to be bringing to my channel. Anyway, I've read the first half of this. I have not read the synopsis. I just know that people are talking about it. So the first half was about this young girl being taken captive by Israeli soldiers after they killed like everybody else in the area, and what they did to this girl. It was really, really tough to read, but it's a very real and documented scenario. So I didn't know, oh, sorry, I didn't mention this was translated by Elizabeth Jaquette. On the back it says. I didn't know what I was getting into, but page 50 now is chapter 2, and I'm reading from this woman who learned about this act happening because it was documented, but it was a minor detail in this larger report. And she's basically like, why does no one care about this? What really happened? And now she's on this mission where her life is in danger itself to try to figure out who this person was and what, not why it happened, but why no one else paid attention to it, called attention to it. And I think that individual case is just a reflection of the whole larger why does it feel like no one else cares about this? I think this narrative is just the second half of the book. There's no other chapter or moment. It's definitely something I am taking my time through, even though it's only 100 pages. But I will give you my final rating in just a moment. I read plenty of books that are about important topics that teach something, that shed light on something. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a 5-star. It has to also be written well, and this was. I'm also just naturally set up to love a novella. I just think that it takes such skill to make you care and understand something in such a short amount of pages. And there are 2 different timelines in here, because the first section is the summer of 1949 and Nakba, and then the other section is more current day, and sheds such a light on what occupation currently looks like, where you're allowed to go, not allowed to go, how different groups of people are allowed to go different places, and what it means to move, who can trespass, and how she gets to the bottom of this situation. The second half was just as devastating as the first, which I don't know if I was expecting, but I mean, it makes sense. This is like fiction adjacent, nonfiction adjacent. It's kind of like the in-between, because it's obviously inspired by true things. I was just looking up stuff about the author. And I guess a reason also that this is being really talked about right now, or was a couple months ago especially, was this author was up for a literary award. A ceremony was meant to be held, and then they canceled it due to the war in Israel. So I think it's really cool how the community has stepped up and highlighted it more than it ended up getting, literary acclaim for, which is like, whatever, not what some people care about. It makes me think about literary awards too, because I don't follow them. I don't know anything about them, but it's interesting how so many things are stifled and how that works and who's in control of these things. But it makes me think about like also the Hugo, because who was it? R.F. Kuang, Saran J. Zhao had like the numbers came out about how many nominations they got for the Hugo, and then the Hugo deemed them ineligible without telling them why, and so they weren't then up to win these awards. And people are speculating that because the Hugos were located in China, that's why, because of what the authors were saying in their books. And it's just so weird to think about. Like, obviously there is so much censorship within publishing already, which is insane. But even with like literary prizes, authors are getting fucked over for recognition. Anyway, this video now has 1.5 stars, which is exciting. And there's still plenty of potential for it to match the other videos that are above it. So I'm gonna move on once I'm a little more emotionally prepared to read something else. Her Majesty's Royal Coven is up next.
And with that, the 2023 season comes to an end. Good night.
Yes, this book came from my own TBR. No, I did not know anything about it. I knew it was about a group of friends and there was a witchy coven and they're protecting the royals from whatever. I figured I would start it, I would get into it, and then I could explain it to you. This is how far into it I am now before I think I can adequately sum this up. And I was reading the beginning of this thinking that these girls, this friendship group, were teenagers. Can't explain why. And then one of them talked about how they have like a teenage daughter. And I was like, oh no, wait, this is an adult witchy novel. These are adult women. And now I feel like I'm reading this mix of The Secret Society of Irregular Witches, what's it called? Whatever that one's called, mixed with The Raven Cycle. Not plot-wise for either of them, but the vibes. This is basically urban fantasy. It is modern day. It talks about current events. It has a lot of pop culture references. We have all these women in a coven. We have a high priestess, and there are some of the women who are taking like younger witches, like their children and also others that we learn about, and are teaching them magic. So it has this vibe with like the warm, inviting, cozy nature. But then like if you were following all of the adult women from the Raven Cycle, it feels like that. They kind of like butt heads sometimes. They all have different opinions and different perspectives. We even have a character named Neve. We also have a bee allergy. It's just very Raven Cycle coded. Somebody just said Excelsior, which I know is not from the Raven Cycle, but like I just can't stop thinking about it and I want to reread the series now. The last year was the first year in like 5 that I haven't reread the Raven Cycle, and now I'm having to mentally stop myself from picking up that series right now. I'm also not because of this exclusively, but the fact that I'm reading like 2 500-page books back to back, I just feel like I'm really fighting a reading slump right now, even though this is very good. Another thing that's giving Raven Cycle vibes is the people who are so used to their witchy or like psychic powers get introduced to a new type of magic that they aren't familiar with, and a person specifically who has that power, and them trying to like navigate it all. Let me see what the synopsis says. There are whisperings of a prophecy that will bring the coven to its knees. And then it says demonic frenemies, which is funny because we have like a demonic threat. I'm getting the sense, and the reason I paused it here is I feel like it's about to get really actiony, and there's going to be a lot of magic and taking down different elements. It's not like a cozy fantasy, but there has just been a lot of learnings and friendship vibes and like bringing people into the coven and describing it to us. And I get the sense that we're about to battle. And I don't know if that's true. At this point, it's not feeling like a 5, but I am liking it. And I'm just interested to see where it's gonna go, what the reveals are gonna be, because there are a lot of predictions that the characters are making about like what's going on, what's going to happen to them. So let me check in with you again shortly. I took out my contacts like I'm supposed to at this time of night, but I cannot find my glasses. So I'm just kind of blind now. Good news though, I have nearsighted vision, so I can still read a book just fine, like right here. I still have like 80 pages to go. I just can't read anymore right now. I am slumping. I'm slumping hard. I feel it. I don't know what to do. I don't really care about the plot of this. Like I don't care about what's happening. I'm not invested, but I do like the characters. I didn't realize that Juno Dawson was trans, and there is a lot of great conversation around trans identity in here, and pronouns and learning, misgendering also, that I think could be like upsetting for people to read, but journeys for different various characters to be on. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Characters are standing out. Plot, I couldn't care much less. Besides their personal journeys, like the actual action that I was anticipating and where the story is existing, I don't know. And I also just found out that this is a whole series. So now I don't know how it's going to end, and I'm worried about like a cliffhanger because I don't think I care enough to continue, but the next 80 pages could change my mind. I have to wake up really early though, so I'm going to head to bed and I'll check in with you probably in the car because I've got a busy day ahead of me. And also I need to go shop for the next book. My penchant for matching my outfit to my book continues. It's almost spot on. As beautiful as this book is, and the effort that I put, the money to get it, and the important things it sheds a light on, I'm only giving it a 3. What happens in a lot of friendship books for me, especially witchy friendship books that end at a 3, it's because I didn't get enough of the friendship. It's like you tell me at the beginning, these are the closest friends ever, and then I don't really see the connection in the book. I want to see them all together. I want to see one-on-ones. Like, I think you come to care about a lot of these characters, but it didn't have the individual connections and closeness that I really wanted to feel and experience. The world building was much more interesting than the magic system, and I think I wanted more magic as well. There's a lot of politics in here, and I like everything this book had to say. There was a lot of interesting stuff about different covens and ones that were created to be more inclusive and how they're like challenging the status quo. It was all about navigating different identities. I didn't really like the ending. It was a cliffhanger for sure for the next book, but I also just like don't love how it all wrapped up, and I think I just wanted the focus to be in other places. I was really bogged down for the second half of this. It was action-packed for sure and constantly moving, but just another kind of exhausting one. Anyway, I'm on to the next book, but this got half a star, so combined 2 of the books have ended up with this video having 2 stars at this point.
Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. If you can listen to this on audiobook, I highly recommend it. Trevor Noah, talks about what it was like growing up as a child in South Africa under apartheid. And I mean, it's funny. It's tragic, and it's just beautifully written.
Book number 4, I'm here to pick up right now. I listened to a sample of the audiobook to make sure that I wanted it, and I do. I don't know anything about Trevor Noah. I know he's a guy with a show. I don't watch any of those shows, and I don't know anything about those men. Like the title says, it's about a South African childhood more than his, rise to fame, if that's what you would call it. I really don't know anything about like where he came from, what he does for work, like how, I just know that he's a celebrity and he's on TV. So this isn't something that I would have felt drawn to. I've heard of it plenty of times before, but celebrity memoirs aren't something that I ever am interested in reading. But it opened up really interestingly, and I'm always interested in learning just about some random person's life. So I'm most interested to see how deep into his life, I don't even know how old he is, the book goes, but I'm gonna go grab it now. Well, that was quick and easy. I also found the desk calendar because I do these TBRs at the beginning of each month on Instagram. Just a little picture of like 1 or 2, it's always 2 books at the beginning of the month. And it like reminds people what the book club pick is and just like references like 1 or 2 things I'm reading. And I always have a little calendar in the photo. And this year there was just not any cute options, so I didn't order one. Well, I ordered one originally, and then they told me it was out of stock. It was this one. I ordered it in store, and they canceled my order and they were like, we don't have it. And then I went in store, clearly, just now, and it was there. But I wasn't gonna get one because I didn't like any of the other options, but I like this one. I think it's simple and cute and can kind of go with any of the covers that I'm posting of the month because sometimes they clash and we can't have that. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this when I get home. I just laughed out loud to a nonfiction book. Wild. The 3rd chapter was about how Trevor grew up with like all women in his family and how that impacted him and made his perspective what it is. We're talking about his relationship or lack thereof with his father, and then it's talking about all of the churches that he went to. Basically every day of the week there was black church, there was white church. I feel like there's also good teachings for people in here if you don't know anything about South Africa and how they refer to different people, different like racial groups. This gives a lot of insight into that. It was just talking about spirituality and this belief in like demons. There's also, I've read a little bit on, and there's like a talk about witches. Anybody who owns a cat is like automatically a witch. Anytime something bad or scary happens to you, like it must be a demon, like there must be a curse put on your family. And that was just about something that he did that got blamed on a demon, which was fucking hilarious. So Trevor Noah is a comedian. I've learned it makes sense. This is a very fast read and I can't imagine it not getting a decently high rating. So feeling good. Welcome back to my vehicle. I finished my book. This I'm gonna go ahead and give a 4, which means the video's getting another star, and we have 1 book left. So we could tie with Bookstagram, we could tie with BookTube still, we could get lower than all of them, but we can't beat anything. So that's where the leaderboard currently sits. I like this a lot. If I hadn't read a lot of memoirs recently that were so well written, like beautiful language, intricate like detail, bringing facts back around, and just like were a real piece of art, I probably would have given this a higher rating, but it was just like written fine. It was written like your typical memoir. It didn't do anything above and beyond, basically. So a 4 is obviously a solid rating. I think that it did the perfect mix of information about, the whole point of him being born a crime in the title is about his parents not legally being allowed to be together and have a child because they're different races. And it talks about like how the law came to be and how things have changed over time and how different groups of people are treated. So it wove in historical information with these little anecdotes from his childhood. And it was like it says, his childhood. And I would be interested in reading something later on, how he got into like his career, which I normally wouldn't say I'd be interested in reading, but I really like his style of storytelling. I listened to the audiobook for some of this and definitely would recommend it. he narrates it. It's sad because he's gone through some tough things, but it's also just about like friendships that he's had, and it also pushed the boundaries a little bit as far as the comedy involved in here. I would say there are some life lessons as well. He's saying things about how his mother raised him and how maybe that wasn't the perfect thing for him. For example, he like went to jail, and in that moment she could have helped him get out of it, and she didn't because she wanted to deliver some tough love, which is definitely a lot of parents' perspectives. And he just offered the idea of like, well, sometimes maybe a kid just needs love and not the tough part because the world is already so tough. I liked it. Happy to have read it. Thank you so much it's not a recommendation, but I like to pretend everybody in these videos are my best friends, and you recommended me the book.
She starts to have an obsession with eyeballs. At no point in this book did I want to put it down. I was finishing the book like this.
This video literally goes live today, the day that I'm filming and reading my last book. And if this is it, if this is what I think it is, and Martin really came through, like, that'd just be wild. The guys are the best part by Monica Kim. I can't believe this came on time. This book comes out in June. I was also given access to the NetGalley arc, so thank you so much to everybody who worked on getting this to me. I can't believe I get to read it physically in my hands today, and it's not that long. I can't believe I'm reading another eyeball book. I just can't express to you how much, like, obviously this is a thing for a lot of people. They don't like eyeballs. That's why eyeballs get put on covers like this and movie posters. When I tell you I've literally left a movie because somebody got poked in the eyeball and I watched it happen and didn't cover my eyes in time, not many things make me nauseated. Eyeballs do it. Don't ask me how I'm able to touch my own eyeball with my contacts every day. But seeing other people even like get close to touching their eyeball, oh my god, it skeeves me out so bad. Let me give this about like 50 pages to get into what it even is, and then I'll give you an update. So we have our main character, G1, and she is in a transitional part in life. She is just starting college. Her parents just got separated a couple months ago, and now her mother is already dating somebody new. And she also just lost like her entire group of friends. So her mental state is a little questionable. And after she meets this guy, and she clearly does not like him, he's giving off terrible vibes, she starts hallucinating, dreaming of his eyeballs, like they're everywhere. The book kicks off with her eating an eyeball for the first time. Her mom says it's good luck, it's from a fish, and now she's just thinking a lot about eyeballs while she's going to class and dealing with other things. It doesn't seem very dream-like, which I might expect from this type of story. She's very much present and active in her choices and her actions, but I just wonder like if we're gonna descend into like, what's gonna happen from here. Escalating so quickly. I am stressed. Overall, I'm gonna have to give that a 4. It's kind of what I was expecting to get from Mayfly. Like the consistency. There's not much else going on in the story. There is a little bit of like new friendship, potential relationships to follow, but it really is just this eyeball obsession. I think liking They Never Learn and this definitely makes sense for me, following a character who is on like a revenge mission, or I talked about this when I was reading Mayfly. I don't often love just like the constant violence in books, but I know that there's such a large group of people who just eat up any story of that nature. And so if you like that, you will probably dig this. It does get into the territory of her being kind of consumed in a way that makes not everything clear around her, which is the vibe that I was hoping for. It has a little bit of like Lady Macbeth energy, and I'm just overall so glad that I did enjoy it, because you know, I got it sent to me and I never request books like that. I haven't in like years. I'm glad it went well, and overall that means that we tied with BookTube, right? I think it was a 3.5 overall. So Bookstagram has still won. We had a 3, a 3, a 4, a 4, and a 5. And that's it for the social medias. We know for a fact that my best recommendations come from Bookstagram. There is one more episode coming that has to do with my channel members. That's not social media specific, but I think there are a lot of people in my membership who have aligning taste to me. So I'll see you in about a week with that video. In the meantime, there's going to be a January wrap up from me. And if you're a channel member, we'll have some reading sprints where you can see my live reactions to some of these books. And I'll see you again very soon. Bye. And the only thing that I could pick is called 6 Deaths of the Saint, which is by Alex E. Harrow, an author that I just said in one of my most recent videos I'm not going to read again.
More eyeballs?